This is CBC Here and Now.
Effective today, 2 household bubbles can now join together. So you can have a double bubble.
You can expand your bubble right away, just like we're seeing with this video of children seeing their grandparents for the first time in 6 weeks, but other changes will take time. Good evening, I'm Carolyn Stokes.
And I'm Anthony Germain. Some businesses can open as early as next week. For others, it will be months, and for yet others, never. Details.
Well, today is a significant milestone in the COVID-19 pandemic in this province. Officials say we're past the first wave of cases here and it's time to start reopening. So there is a lot to break down with the announcements today. So let's bring in here now is Peter Cowan. So Peter, let's start with the biggest change today, that double bubble. Explain how that will work.
Right, Carolyn. So far the idea has been you're supposed to stay within your own household bubble. But what they're allowing today is basically you can merge your bubble with another household. So it might mean that for a family, they decide to bubble with the grandparents. But there are conditions. Once you pick a family, you can't change who you bubble with, and whoever you bubble with, of course, has to choose you back. That may be hard for grandparents, but here's what you need to consider.
Especially if you're a grandparent who's older, or if you have medical conditions, you have to think about that. And then you have to ask yourself, is it really wise to expand my bubble at this time at all? And just because you can do it doesn't mean you should or you have to. So, you have to think about that. And then families have to think about who they're joining with and make sure that they're making those decisions with the best interest of people in mind. But as I've said before, if you're expanding your bubble beyond that, then you're not just expanding it to those people, you're expanding it to everybody that those people have interacted with. So the fewer interactions outside of your bubble that you can have, the better.
And it didn't take long after today's announcement for people to do just that. Let's take a look.
Come now, Seamus.
Get in there, yes. Get in there.
Look who it is.
Get in there. I want to feel some fresh. Give me a hug.
Well, Rhonda McMeekin posted this video of her parents coming over to hug their grandkids for the first time in over a month. And we've already started to see lots of these sorts of videos being posted online as people double their bubble.
Yes, that is one happy double bubble for sure. Lots of great reunions. Now, Peter, that's the most immediate measure that we're seeing today, and I bet people are already calling and texting people to try to figure out who their other bubble will be. But let's talk about the other measures. They're using a level system. How does that work?
Right, so right now we're at level 5, and assuming that there isn't a spike in cases over the next 10 days, we'll move to the next level on May 11th. That'll be level 4. So what does that mean? Here is the impact. So we'll see that outdoor activities like golf courses, hunting, fishing, they're going to be allowed. Low-risk businesses, so garden centers, law and accounting firms, they'll be able to open. Health authorities will resume some tests and procedures, and we'll see some childcare services for those workers who are now going to have to head back to work. They're going to become available. And when you look at the size of the group, it's going to go from 5 to 10 for things like funerals and weddings, but that doesn't mean you can have a dinner party, Dr. Fitzgerald explained.
Well, we have to remember about gatherings. We're not talking about getting together with your friends to have dinner or something like that. You still need to stay within your bubble. These will be organized gatherings such as funerals and other ceremonies like that, where people can be socially distanced and will not be interfering with each other's bubble.
Okay, so that's how life changes on May 11th, but how soon after that will we see more restrictions lifted?
You already want more restrictions, Carolyn. Come on, I already gave you some. Well, the answer is they're going to have to wait at least 28 days. So as early as June 8th would be the next phase, but that's only the earliest possible date if we don't see more cases of COVID-19. So what would happen then? Well, chiropractors, dentists, optometrists, they'd be able to reopen. Restaurants could start serving people, but at a reduced capacity. You could see outdoor sporting events like soccer, baseball, they're able to start operating. And one of my personal favorites, that's when hair salons would be able to open, as well as spas. And other retail stores, think like clothing, shopping malls, they'd be able to open, but with all those physical distancing restrictions that we've seen in stores so far.
Okay, so then when do we move to the next level? Is it then another 28 days?
It's not necessarily a one-way street. We could end up moving from 3 and then back up to 4 with more restrictions if there's another outbreak and they have to tighten things up again. But if things are moving along really well, they may not wait another 28 days. They may be able to bring those in sooner. But whenever that does happen, what is going to change? Well, we're going to see higher risk businesses open. So that's like bars, movie theaters, bingo halls, gyms, pools, arenas. They'd finally be allowed to open. And small gatherings would be allowed, but they haven't really given any details in terms of what size that might be.
Okay, we're working our way down here. So
it's like a countdown, yeah.
It is, for sure. So after that, so we're at level 1. Does that lift all of the restrictions then?
Right, so level 1, it would be the kind of the last, and unfortunately, no. So for example, we heard today large gatherings are out for the entire year. So if you want to start thinking Salmon Festival, you want a George Street Festival, the regatta, they're not going to happen. And it may be even longer because we're going to need a vaccine. So they're saying don't plan international travel or even some of those large events.
Have to be prepared for a life without mass gatherings until we can lift these measures fully. Unfortunately, that means festivals and other large events planned for this summer and early fall will not be able to go ahead. We have seen the potential for outbreaks in these types of large gatherings, and the risk is just too high without a vaccine. Also, vacations this year will have to look different. We encourage you to vacation close to home. International travel as we knew it in 2019 will not be feasible for the foreseeable future.
Okay, so no international travel, but what about staycations? When can we travel within the province?
Well, that's still up in the air, Carolyn. For now, it's still essential travel only, so you shouldn't be renting a cabin for the weekend, for example, and we don't know when that's going to change. It's not tied to any specific level.
There's a lot of things that we would have to consider before we could make those types of decisions. So it would very much depend on the epidemiology in the province as a whole, but also within regions as well. So if we were seeing a lot more cases in one particular area, that might make a difference to what we do. So it's very difficult to predict it at this point.
So still so many things quite uncertain, a lot of things still to break down. I'm sure we'll be talking about this a lot over the coming days.
Absolutely, Carolyn. I've already got more questions for tomorrow's briefing.
I bet you do. Thanks so much, Peter. Well, the City of St. John's also announced some reopening plans today. It says parks will reopen as early as next week, but playgrounds, skate parks, and dog parks will remain closed. Now, the city will also reopen Robin Hood Bay for residential garbage drop-off, but it will not take recycling, yard waste, electronics, or bulk items. Now, some businesses can reopen on May 11th. That's in about 2 weeks from now. Anthony joins us now live. So you've been speaking with people in the business community about this. What are you hearing?
Well, Karen, I think the business community is basically saying that COVID-19 has had a crushing effect on all kinds of commerce that we used to take for granted. Just the normal buying and selling of goods and services has been really suppressed during this virus that we've been suffering through. So I caught up with Richard Alexander with the Employers Council Newfoundland Labrador, and he tells me that his phone has been ringing off the hook and he's never seen it this bad. All right, Richard, we're going to an alert system. What's your reaction?
Well, I mean, every province that's the approach that they're taking. That appears to be best practice. You know, we're supportive of government doing some, easing of restrictions, moving in that direction. Public health has to remain the #1 priority. Absolutely, business supports that. What they've announced is extremely cautious. We know there's a lot of differences between what this province is proposing in other provinces. They're very cautious. We're going to sit down, we're going to have a conversation with government to understand why they've chosen this approach with certain things. But make no mistake, there are many businesses that will not survive this. It is gruesome.
Most of these places are all closed. What are your members telling you?
It's story after story after story of business owners that invest their lives into these businesses, don't believe that they're going to survive it, struggling to survive it. One of the things that we've tried to get this government to understand is that they're fighting two crises right now. They're fighting a public health crisis, but they're also fighting an economic crisis. It's a war on two fronts right now.
How is the government, is it not nimble enough to meet your business requirements?
When this started, 9 business associations got together. We signed a joint letter with 11 no-cost or low-cost things that government could do immediately to support business. We sent that letter a month ago. We had a meeting with 3 cabinet ministers and a representative from the Premier's office last week. They appear to be stuck in the bureaucracy of things, and one of the things we've tried to get across to them is that this is an emergency. This is a crisis. The house is on fire. We don't have time to strike a committee to decide which type of hose we're going to use to put the fire out. We need them to start from a position of, we're going to make this happen. We're going to make it happen now. Let's do it.
So, final question for you. Obviously, that public health, as you mentioned, is the priority for the start of this. Where do you think things need to go to actually, give our businesses a fighting chance?
Well, businesses are adapting, and we're going to have to get used to the new normal, but government is also going to have to get used to the new normal. And that means doing things differently. And that means not delaying when you're in the middle of a crisis.
All right, Richard, thank you very much.
My pleasure, thank you.
And that was Anthony speaking with Richard Alexander of the Employers Council. Now, last night we told you about the appointment of Paul Mills to lead the province's reopening strategy to help the provincial economy get through this pandemic. Mills has worked with the Liberals before, but we made a mistake telling you the position he held. We said Mills was on the Premier's election team, working closely to get him elected, but that was not correct. Mills was on the Premier's transition team after the 2015 election win to help Dwight Ball transition into power. Well, Marine Atlantic says the number of passengers has decreased, not counting truckers. It's down by 72%. It says in April there were 15 to 20 passengers per trip, not including truckers. Marine Atlantic also says the amount of goods being shipped is down except for fresh food. There is a 31% drop in the number of transport trucks coming across and 15% fewer trucks where containers are dropped in North Sydney to be picked up by a trucker in Port aux Basques. Well, there are challenging times ahead for anyone whose livelihood depends on large groups of people coming together in one space, like a live concert, for example. Musician Alan Doyle recently released a new album, Rough Side Out, and was on the cusp of launching a massive tour. Then the coronavirus showed up, and now everything is on hold. Alan Doyle joins me now. So first of all, Alan, would you describe yourself as a very social person?
Yes, I think I would. Yeah, so I'm very social, both in my work, because I'm usually out with, gangs of people watching concerts and the band on the bus and all that stuff. But when I'm home, I'm quite social too. So it's a double whammy for a fellow like me. I've been working on a book down here and a new bunch of new music and a musical and stuff. So just keeping busy with projects that are available for us to do, because the gigs, of course, aren't available to do.
What has been the effect of this global upheaval on you and your band and all of the people who are working on your tours?
Oh, it's widespread, of course, and it's a global thing. And, just for people, I've been trying to explain it like, when Alan Doyle or Bryan Adams or Jan Arden cancels a concert or moves a concert, there's a lot more than Alan Doyle or Jan Arden or Bryan Adams who are affected, right? I mean, there's the immediate people who travel with us every day, the band, the crew, the bus drivers, the truck drivers, and then there's the other wave of people like the theater people and the local people who've been, who work in the theater or work at the restaurants across the street from the theater or what have you. All the economy that goes around that single day, everybody's feeling it.
You've been spending time on Facebook doing live performances. You've brought in other musicians to help you with your fundraising efforts. Can you talk a bit about what you've been doing there and what kind of an outlet this has been for you?
Oh, as a performer, it's been a lovely outlet. It's weird one to be down here in my basement by myself, singing into my phone, looking at myself. That's a weird vibe. But, it's been reaching a lot of people, and through our platform at $1 a Day Foundation, since the COVID-19 stoppage, we've raised just shy of $400,000 for mental health and addictions issues across the country, and over a quarter that's going to stay right here in Newfoundland and Labrador. So I'm feeling pretty good about that, and I'm super grateful for people who've been tuning in to the supper time sing-alongs and to the corporations and the groups and the families that have all donated to try to improve mental health and addictions issues across the country, because it was bad before this, but you can only imagine what's coming, the next wave of mental health and addictions issues that'll come as a result of this. So we're just trying to get ahead of it.
Well, definitely some productive work that you're doing there for sure. But before we finish up, Alan, I just have to ask you about a fan letter that you received recently. You posted this photo on Twitter, and the fan didn't know your address, so just wrote "the musician from Petty Harbour" on the front of it. And thank you, Canada Post, for trying.
You know what? It's not the first time that's happened. There's been a couple of times when stuff, Alan Doyle, the singer from Petty Harbour, the letter shows up at my mom's or something like that, or ends up here or whatever. But this one in particular was quite funny because it came all the way from Salmon Arm, British Columbia, and it was from a lady who had a request for a little, a meet and greet over the summer, which may or may not happen now, but we'll see how that works out, of course. But I must say it was just great. It made me feel good. First of all, to get the correspondence at all, and that there's fans out there still cheering for us, but also that the good folks at Canada Post during this tough time are doing their darndest. Is fantastic.
Well, Alan Doyle, thank you so much for joining us today, and good luck with your continued fundraising efforts on Facebook, and good luck in the future. Hopefully, you'll be able to get some touring out of this when some of these restrictions finally start to lift.
Thanks for having me on.
After a quiet couple of days weather-wise, our next low moves in. First going to affect Labrador and eventually the island. I'll have all the details coming up.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Bonus deadline is midnight, Friday, May 15th. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
It certainly felt a little bit more like summer up through parts of Labrador today than spring. Take a look at these daytime highs, 18 degrees for Happy Valley Goose Bay today. And then we've got temperatures around 15, 16 degrees for Corner Brook, Deer Lake, but taking sweet time to get to the temperatures for eastern areas. Bonavista, St. John still sitting in those single digits. And then look at areas along the coast as well. Cartwright sitting at 15 degrees earlier this afternoon. So we do have that area of high pressure that's moving south right now, and that's allowing more cloud cover to move in, and we're certainly seeing that up through Labrador. And as we head through the night tonight, that will be the story. Those temperatures are going to dip, and we're going to see some snow mixed with rain for Lab West. Showers as you head towards central, same with the coast into the early morning hours, as well as the northern peninsula. You're going to see the potential for a few showers to start the day. Otherwise, winds will eventually ease off, which is good news across the island, but not a whole lot to talk about as far as weather goes. Clouds will continue along the northern peninsula, and then we'll start to see some clouds on the increase through the day from west to east. And then that onshore flow along the south coast means you're going to see some cooler temperatures, and then eventually some showers will move in as we head towards the evening and overnight. So it's been a while since we've seen double-digit temperatures for St. John's. December 15th, in fact, and it does look like tomorrow we should reach that temperature, if not exceed it. I have 15 degrees in for St. John's tomorrow with those winds generally light. And then a number of areas seeing temperatures in the teens tomorrow. Again, that onshore flow along the south coast going to keep those temperatures cooler, and then some showers to start for the northern peninsula, and then staying cloudy through the day. 5 degrees will be the afternoon high for St. Anthony, and then generally looking at showers for most of the big land, and then those temperatures dipping again. So into Saturday, things will stay soggy. The best or the most rain that we're going to see will generally be along the south coast. You could see anywhere from 30 to as much as 50 millimeters of rain. And then eventually we'll see those showers make their way towards the Avalon into the evening and overnight. And that low generally will stick with us through the day, at least the first half of the day on Saturday, and then that'll move off. But we are going to hang on to these warmer temperatures through the day on Saturday, so that's good news. Into the teens, one more day of that anyway, and then the northern peninsula back into those single digits again, as well as the south coast. And then some sunshine will return up through Nain. So just before we leave you tonight, just wanted to share this lovely, almost tropical photo of Sandbanks Provincial Park. Thank you so much to Julie for sending that in. And if you have any weather photos to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, some good news for Fort McMurray today. Officials say the ice jam causing the flooding is shrinking. Now, this video shows the scale of the damage in Fort McMurray. The entire downtown is underwater. The mayor says more than 1,200 homes and businesses are affected. The emergency has forced as many as 13,000 people from their homes. The Alberta government is providing emergency cash payments, $1,250 to each adult and $500 to each child, starting on Monday. Well, time to introduce you now to some adorable future heroes. These 13 German Shepherd puppies are from the first litter born in 2020 at the RCMP Police Dog Services Training Center in Alberta. The Mounties held a puppy naming contest for kids, and the winners have been selected, one from each province and territory. And one day, each of these little pups will be fighting crime alongside their RCMP handlers. And if you're wondering what some of those names are, a couple of them: Nanook, Narco, Gnarly, Nika, Nelly, Nero, Newman. I could go on, but I won't. Well, starting today, you can expand your bubble. We heard that earlier in the show, and we're already starting to see videos posted online of people doing just that. Yay! Very heartwarming. This one is from Emily Deming. She said there was no chance to debate who would join their bubble. Her daughter phoned her Nana the moment it was announced. And of course, we've already seen this other video earlier in the show. But let's have a look at it again. Rhonda McMeekin's children. There we are, hugging their grandparents for the first time in 6 weeks. Hopefully we'll be seeing lots of those stories as the days go on. Some good news. Very, very welcome at this time. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, everyone. Stay tuned. News from Nova Scotia is coming up next.